Ladies and gentlemen, what do we have for you today? Super porn. That's what we've got for you today. And welcome to the Ruby Tuesday. My name is Ruben, and this is my preview of episode 7 of season 2 of The Boys. So beware, there are minor spoilers in this. If you want to come at this from a fresh view, then don't watch this. But if you want to know some minor plot details and what's going on in this episode, and just the general shenanigans of what is happening in The Boys, then come along with me. As per usual, I will chuck up my screener letter to prove that I have seen this and that I am reviewing it, previewing it, and let's get into it. So the beginnings of this episode is pretty dark. One of the darkest openings we've had so far in this season. It speaks about the repercussions of the propaganda of what the Vought team, especially Homelander and Stormfront, the way they are using their power to promote what Vought are wanting, and how they're trying to get themselves in the limelight and use all of that as a propaganda information to spread disinformation and get people to their sides. You see the repercussions of that. And that is pretty much the opening of this. And I thought, whoa, we're in for a ride this episode. However, I have to say that not much happens for the first 35 minutes, almost 40 minutes of this episode. Is one of the most boring episodes, unfortunately. We still have a lot going on in this episode. There's a lot of moving pieces, puzzle pieces. I really thought that this episode was going to be the one that drew everything back together, and kind of we had maybe those two kind of the families again. So we have the boys and we have the supers, and I thought maybe we were going to get those defined groups, I guess, on each side. That was the stories were going to come to fruition, that we were going to have an explanation of what's going on, and so that the episode 8, the final episode of the season, would get that big action sequences. And for the most part, I don't think they're doing that. They're still playing around with those individual storylines. Butcher is on top form, where the last couple of episodes he's been a bit down in the dumps, and Huey is almost trying to bring back the leadership of the boys. Butcher seems to be gaining his strength again. He's angry, he's moody, and it feels like we're getting back into the characteristics of what his character was from the latter episodes of season 1. And so he has a family meeting. I'm not going to say who he meets, but the actor that we see him that is played by this family meeting. I love this person. I think they're a fantastic actor. And I think you'll enjoy the interaction, although it's not particularly a happy interaction. And so from that moment on, as we see the moments with Butcher in this episode, we see him angry, and it just feels like he's kind of putting his Butcher coat back on. I totally expect mayhem in episode 8. The one thing that will make fans happy, I think, is Black Noir. Because the moment I saw him on screen in this episode, I went, holy crap, Black Noir. Because there is an action sequence, and I think this is the sequence that people are going to talk about from this episode between Starlight, Black Noir, and Maeve. And so whatever happens to get them involved, to being in the same zone, I'm not going to say what or how, the minor spoilers, is that they have an action sequence together. And it was interesting. It's not nearly as long as I wanted. It was very short and sweet. But again, it's like they've just been giving us little tidbits of stuff with Black Noir. We get to see him in action. We get to see Starlight do some stuff. We get to see Maeve do it a little. And their storylines, I guess is all over the place. And sometimes, like this episode, we just see certain characters meet with other characters. They cross paths. We're having so many storylines in and out of each other, and so we see those storylines cross paths. And as I mentioned at the beginning, one thing I didn't expect to have in this episode was you get to see, I guess, even in our world, we have parodies, porn parodies of superhero films, and so in the boys' world, we get to see that there is that as well. And there's this whole kind of 2-minute sequence where a character on the boys' team is watching these porn parodies, and Huey has to be inflicted with that as well because he's kind of babysitting. And I thought it was a hilarious moment. It was an uncomfortable moment, and what goes on there, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the club scene from season 1 when they go into their club and you see what the supers get up to, and there you're like, whoa. The porn parody, I guess, kind of plays on that a bit. So really, we have the Black Ops CIA team off the books. You know, the boys' team, along with who used to be the CIA, the CIA guys. They now have an idea, a plan to take on Vought, to kind of destroy them. They've got an action plan, and they put that into play in this episode, and that's kind of what this episode is about, is trying to finally do something about Vought. On the other end, we have Homelander and Stormfront. They are intertwined more than usual. They are the team to watch out for. They are the power team behind Vought. We see how their relationship takes a step further into the dark, and how you just know that these guys are going to be trouble completely in season 3. I doubt we're going to see either of them die this season. I feel like they're two popular characters, especially Stormfront being the new one. I think we might see one of the boys die in episode 8. I think it's going to be quite a traumatic episode for us. At least I hope it has some punches and feels, because I really felt like this episode, although it did have some action sequences, they're still all over the place with the storyline, and they're all over the place, and I was really hoping to feel like something was moving rather than just feel like you were hanging. So with A-Train kind of being roped into the church to be somehow being able to get back into the Seven, he's not quite drinking that Kool-Aid, although they definitely want him to. You just see it in his eye. He's immersed into this world, this church world, and obviously we have one member of the Seven that is totally immersed into the church. He's bought and drunk the Kool-Aid. He's got the wife to prove it, but A-Train is not quite on board. I think for me the most fun I had with this episode was with the character Huey. Apart from him being inflicted to watch super porn, he has an interesting hero moment, which I really enjoyed. I finally got to see, you're always rooting for him because he's the weakest of the bunch. He has nothing really to offer except that he is learning to be brave. He is the weakest amongst them. He has no training whatsoever, and yet he's learning how to be smart. He's learning what it means to live in this superpowered evil world. And so there is a moment where he decides he's going to do something again, because he kind of did that in season 1, where he's going to do something. He is the Jiminy Cricket of the group, and we get to see him do something that needs to be done. And I feel like because of that, they lose something, because there's consequences of his actions as always, but also I feel like the repercussions of that are going to play in their favor in episode 8, which is a lot of fun. So this episode 7, was interesting because there are moments that I really enjoyed from it. I liked the interactions, the crossing of paths of the storylines, although I really wanted those storylines to be kind of compacted, to kind of be, now we have 2 main arcs that are going to lead up to that one final episode. But because season 3 has already been greenlit, I feel like they're going to leave us hanging massively at the end of episode 8. It just feels like it's going that way. We've had a lot of almost filler the last 3 episodes, although they have been kind of breaking out let's talk about the past of these characters, really kind of building those characters up. But I think you could have done that in a way that moved along the plot a lot as well. So there have been some reveals in this the last 3 episodes, especially with certain characters' names and who they are and what their performance and who they were and what their purpose was in Vought and the boys. We have that history, that building of that storylines, and that's kind of what they've been leaning on these last 3 episodes. And again, they've done that for episode 7. We get to find out certain things, the history, the past. But hopefully now in episode 8 we will get to see all of that come to fruition. I really hope episode 8 is goes out with a bang, because if not, I feel like this latter half of season 2 will feel like it has gone nowhere. There needs to be a payoff. The best part of this episode is definitely the last 2 minutes. I think people are going to be like, whoa, okay. And so it's a bit hit and miss for me this episode. I was a little bit disappointed, if I'm honest. I enjoyed it, but not as much as the others. It's probably the weakest of the bunch so far. So let me know in the comments below. Are you looking forward to this? Let me know what you thought about episode 6. I believe that's dropping tomorrow. Thank you again to Amazon for these screeners. I do hope you enjoy this. I'm definitely going to do a wrap-up season review when this is finished. I will do an episode 8 review as well, and then do the wrap-up spoiler review for that. Thanks so much for watching this, but most of all, until next time, remember, live on a Tuesday.